Lately, I've seen rappers showing up at Trump rallies, shouting him out, and even featuring him on songs. And it's left me wondering what the heck is going on. Like, why is Kodak saying, "They keep asking about Trump, but I don't speak on family business," pull into Mar-a-Lago the Monte Carlo was sitting on sixes? To be honest, there's a few pretty obvious answers. But Trump's relationship with rappers over the course of his life and career as a politician is actually very fascinating, especially as other politicians have also began using similar tactics to him. I mean, even Biden had E40 performing at one of his rallies. So let's look into it. Real quick, I just want to say we're living in a pretty strange time. A time when presidents are using people like Aiden Ross and Theo Von as stops on his campaign, along with having rappers like Lil Pump pop out at his rallies. And on the flip side, we have Megan Thee Stallion twerking at Kamala rallies, and E40 performing at Joe Biden rallies. This is relatively new, things are getting pretty weird, and I feel like no one's talking about it, so that's why I'm making this video. Trump's connections to the rap genre have been talked about a lot recently with the presidential election coming up, but what a lot of people don't know is that his crossovers with it and its artists go way back to when he wasn't arguably the most controversial man in the world. And back in the day, people in the rap community actually kind of liked him, or at least they liked the idea of having that Trump type of money, because that's mostly what he was known for back in the day. I mean, I'm sure you guys know how on some rap songs people will say things like having that Jay-Z type of money or that Elon Musk type of money. That's what Trump was for the old heads. One of the first big times Trump got somewhat involved in hip-hop was in 1994 when him and his wife were on the popular TV show The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Don't forget, in 1989, Will Smith along with DJ Jazzy Jeff were the first ever rappers to win a Grammy, although they did boycott the ceremony due to a lack of respect shown to the genre by event organizers. At the time though, Will was known heavily for his start in music, which is why his appearance alongside Trump marks one of the earliest occurrences on the timeline. This idea of Trump being a symbol of status or wealth or power is something that we'll see for quite a while throughout this video. Another interesting event was in 1997, around the time Trump and Diddy became friends. This is also shortly after the mysterious death of Biggie and the release of Puff's debut studio album that launched him into further rap relevance. With this new level of fame, Diddy and Trump became fast friends, being spotted together at the US Open as well as at the opening of Diddy's restaurant.
He's doing pretty well. He's the #1 guy, and his records are great. The whole thing is just, he's done a tremendous job, and what he's done here is really fantastic.
This set of interactions is another example of Trump's furthered involvement in the scene. And because Diddy is a businessman, him and Trump's friendship seemed to be quite symbolic in the hip-hop community. Just a year later in '98, Method Man had Trump on a skit in which he expressed his excitement about the upcoming album.
Hey Method Man, this is Donald Trump, and I'm in Palm Beach, and we're all waiting for your album. Let's get going, man. Everybody's waiting for this album.
End of message.
Apparently the reason Trump helped is because he's friends with Def Jam Records co-founder Russell Simmons, but either way it was pretty wild that he did it.
You actually got Donald Trump to record something for your album.
Yes, thanks to Russell Simmons. Russell is a friend of his, and Russell called in a favor because I just wanted a bunch of different cameos on my album saying, where's this album at? Because it had really been 4 years since I dropped my first album.
Yeah.
So, and Donald Trump dialed in and did Russell a favor. And, him and Russell were really tight. Then I think Russell said, "I rebuke you, Satan," and that was the end of it.
Yeah.
Overall, the appearance pretty much added another layer of his involvement in the rap world and marked one of the first times his voice was actually on a track. Speaking of Wu-Tang members, after one of Trump's first times appearing in a song with Method Man, he again got mentioned by Raekwon and Smith & Wesson in their 2003 song Black Trump. Raekwon rapped about his own wealth in the song saying, "You gotta make power moves, black guns and cash rule." And throughout the song, he repeated the line, "Guess who's the Black Trump?" Again, this keeps repeating that theme of Trump as a status symbol in the hip-hop community. While Trump had notably been brought into the industry many times throughout the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. It wasn't until 2004, after the release of Trump's show The Apprentice, that the crossovers really started getting popular.
You're fired.
In the wake of the popular show, rappers like Lil Wayne, Lil Kim, Rick Ross, and many more all started shouting out Trump's name on their songs in one way or another. In 2005, on Jeezy's track Thug Motivation 101, he said, "I'm Donald Trump in a white tee." And Young Jock in 2006 on his song It's Going Down said, "Boys from the hood call me Black Donald Trump." Before the new level of popularity that came from The Apprentice, it seemed Trump was mentioned a lot, but not in a household fashion. After this show's success though, his symbolic use as a sign of money and power started started to become even more of a regular occurrence. This trend got so popular that even before he ran for president, Trump was mentioned on over 200 songs, mostly referring to his wealth. From 1995 to 2015, Trump got name dropped in 9 Rick Ross songs, 7 Nas songs, 6 Migos songs, 6 Young Thug songs, 5 Lil Wayne songs, and 5 Raekwon songs. So as time went on, he started to become a household name in hip-hop. The next milestone of Trump's pre-presidential relationship with rap was around the same time in 2005 when he appeared on G-Unit Radio with DJ Woo Kid, Tony Yayo, and 50 Cent, who called in. Throughout the whole conversation, they were joking about how much money Trump had. When 50 called in, Trump mentioned how him and his children are big fans of 50's music. He also said G-Unit was a great group of people, and he was supportive of their music during their meeting.
This is one shot, one kill. What's the deal? See, you see who I'm sitting next to? Donald Trump. Smell the money. Niggas, you know who you with. It's Tony Yayo up in this. Donald Trump, just say something.
I'm here, folks. I'm here.
Smell the money.
Great group of people.
Smell the money.
So it may seem like the hip-hop community loved Donald Trump back in the day, but that's definitely not the case. A lot of people, even back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, thought that Trump was racist. For example, he was criticized for alleged housing discrimination against black renters in the 70s, and in 89, he demonized the 5 black and Latino youths wrongfully convicted of rape in the Central Park jogger case. So while some artists would rap about his wealth and often aspire to have the same, some people felt different. Like on the Beastie Boys' 1989 track Johnny Ryle, where Trump was contrasted with a homeless alter ego, Donald Trump, or The Coup, who critiqued and mocked Trump through their first 2 albums in the early 90s. But even with these examples, overall the public's view of Trump seemed to be a good one, or at least better than it is nowadays. ESPN's political site compiled that between 1989 and 2014, 19% of song lyrics about Trump were negative, while 60% were positive. As for the other 21%, I have no clue what happened. The important thing about that statistic is the time frame, because it was in the early 2010s when that sentiment began to shift, and there was a major reason for that.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am officially running for President of the United States, and we are going to make our country great again.
The obvious reason is because of his diving into politics, and an event that demonstrates this transition perfectly was his relationship with the rapper Mac Miller. You probably have heard the 2011 Mac Miller hit song Donald Trump, as it now has over 200 million views on YouTube and has been certified platinum. But lots of people today don't know the full story of what unfolded in the years following the song's release. In the song, Mac raps about his goals, at times comparing them to Donald Trump's success and how he plans to do the same. In the chorus, he says, "Take over the world when I'm on my Donald Trump shit. Look at all this money, ain't that some shit?" Fans love the song so much that it actually was Mac Miller's first Billboard Top 100 charting song. It also reached 20 million YouTube views within a year, which ended up catching Trump's attention. In response, Donald posted his own video that somewhat congratulated the young rapper, asked for a share of money, and even said Mac was the new Eminem.
A lot of people are calling me about the Mac Miller rap song. Now, it's named Donald Trump. Maybe you should pay me a lot of money, but it just hit over 20 million people tuning in to Mac Miller. So in one way, I'm proud of him. I haven't actually seen the language. It's a little bit hard to understand on the song itself. Probably it's not the cleanest language we've ever heard, but this kid is the new Eminem. Everybody says he's fantastic, and let's see what it is. But the Donald Trump song just hit over 20 million.
My favorite part of that video was maybe he should pay me a lot of money, because we'll see that come into play later. Mac's response to the video was appreciative, and at some point he even sent Trump the gold certification plaque. But since it was coming from a businessman, Mac did say he felt like the compliment wasn't very genuine. Mac said, "He's not going to be like, I was listening to this Mac Miller kid and he seems influenced by a Tribe Called Quest. He seems like he listens to a lot of Big L growing up and that he's really going there in hip hop. All he meant was I'm a white rapper and I'm blowing up." But regardless, as the song continued to grow in 2012, hitting 54 million views, Trump's tone started to change. He dropped a second video where he hammered harder on the idea of him deserving royalties.
A young rapper named Mac Miller just did a song called Donald Trump, and I've just been told it hit over 54 million. 54 million people I want some money, Mac. Give me some money. I'm entitled to 25% at least.
This video is when things took a turn for the worse. Mac responded on an interview with Complex where he dropped some honest opinions. He said, "When he started running for president, I was like, oh, this is horrible. I have a song with this dude's name, and now he's being such a douchebag." Mac also said, "The thing that bothers me the most is that he always says things like 75 million views on the song Donald Trump. Mac Miller, you're welcome. I could have said, take over the world when I'm on my Bill Gates shit. It doesn't matter. That shit just pisses me off." So basically Mac was saying it wasn't Trump's name that made the song big, it was the whole idea of like having money, kind of like we were talking about earlier. So he was mad that Trump thinks the song was big because of him. In response to this, Trump went on quite a few Twitter and Facebook rants. At one point he even threatened to sue. Throughout the months, Trump said, "Little Mac Miller sent me an expensive plaque for making his song Donald Trump such a big hit. Mac, you still don't have the right to use my name. Little Mac Miller, I'm now going to teach you a big boy lesson about lawsuits and finance, you ungrateful dog. Little Mac Miller, I have more hair than you do and there's a slight age difference." Mac Miller has over 79 million hits on YouTube and just hit platinum with his Donald Trump song, Screw You Mac. It was announced that Mac Miller's song Donald Trump went platinum. Tell Mac Miller to kiss my ass. Larry King interview where he said he wouldn't be opposed to meeting Trump and talking it out.
I don't judge or act like I know anyone, especially in celebrity culture. I'm big on this where like you can't pretend that you know someone if you've never met them, you know? So I would definitely be down to have a conversation with him. Will I vote for him? I don't think so, but you know, I have nothing against him at all.
So as we saw, when Trump began campaigning, more and more people started disliking him. 1, because of the things I mentioned earlier. 2, I'm sure the Mac Miller situation didn't help. And 3, there's a bunch of other reasons in general people don't like this guy. But it's important to take a step back from the focus on Trump and to look at hip-hop's changes and crossover with politics around the same time. Some say that the first major instance of direct presidential interaction was when Obama hosted Big Sean at the White House in 2014. On this day, the first ever rap show was performed at the president's house in front of over 30,000 people as part of an Easter celebration. It is important to note, though, that alongside Big Sean was Ariana Grande as they performed her song right there. But regardless, it does still count as a big moment and a first for the genre. Overall, Obama had a key role in progressing the mixing of hip-hop with politics through his actions. For example, he quoted Jay-Z, Kanye, and more in his speeches.
"We honor those who walked so we could run. We must run so our children soar."
Jay-Z actually first rapped those lines in a song imagining an American black president before there ever was one.
Obama was actually pretty tight with Jay-Z. He campaigned with him, talked about how much he liked his music all the time, and referenced him a lot. And Obama also even hosted a plethora of rappers at the White House on top of Big Sean, including Wale, Kendrick Lamar, Chance the Rapper, J. Cole, and more. So while concerts have taken place at the White House since the 1800s, and rappers have visited it before, it seems like Obama just opened the doors for hip-hop's direct interaction and voice within politics. Early on in 2011, he famously had Common recite poetry at a White House event, which to some is known as one of his first moves in which he gave hip-hop that voice. So basically, without Obama, we may not have seen the rapper / president or presidential candidate collaboration like we are today. Clearly, rap has always had a close relationship with politics, but it was getting to a point where these artists were able to directly connect with people in office like never before. Somewhat ironically, Ice Cube called Obama an anomaly and stated it will probably be a long time before we see another president do something like this. But despite that, it seems Ice Cube was kind of wrong because hip-hop's crossover with politics had just begun. Around this time, the relationship between hip-hop and politics were at what seemed to be an all-time high. But as Obama's time as president came to an end and Trump's began, a lot had changed. As we discussed, from the 2000s to the 2016 election, public opinion had shifted drastically and held Trump in a much more negative light. With his move to politics, the sentiment shifted and more negative association came than ever. But again, we all know how much people hated Trump, so when more rappers kept or started associating with him, it was very surprising. A select few artists like Kanye West supported Trump publicly, but most pushed hard in the opposite direction, like YG for example with his 2016 song FTD. The song came out months before Trump's official election, but seemed to be symbolic for how many in hip-hop felt about him. A line YG featured in FDT says, "Don't let Donald Trump win, he's a cancer. He's too rich, he ain't got the answers. He can't make decisions for this country, he gon' crash us." With Trump officially being elected, a line was drawn and sides were chosen. But as time passed through Trump's presidency, a surprising list of interactions followed. One of the first and most controversial / most entertaining interactions / relationships was our boy Kanye and his relationship with Trump. People often say that it started around Kanye's St. Pablo tour. During his show in Sacramento, Kanye shocked fans with a rant supporting Trump, which eventually led to their first meeting at Trump Tower.
You take care of yourself. I'll see you soon. All right?
Their next run-in was in 2015 after Kanye announced his plans to run for president in 2020.
I have decided in 2020 to run for president.
In response, Trump spoke on how he hopes to have Kanye as a running mate in the election and stated, "He said very nice things about me in the past, extremely positive things." Trump also said, "He's actually a different kind of person than people think. He's a nice guy. I hope to run against him someday." After this, though, came another 2016 rant within days of the Sacramento one, but this time in San Jose. Trump and Kanye had known each other for a while, but Kanye had never politically supported Trump until some 2016 rants during his St. Pablo tour. Kanye had another rant within days of the Sacramento one, but this time in San Jose. It was 25 minutes long with Kanye saying, "Voting for Trump don't mean that I don't think Black Lives Matter. That don't mean I don't believe in women's rights. That don't mean that I don't believe in gay marriage. That don't mean that I don't believe in these things, because that was the guy I would have voted for. If I would have voted, I would have voted for Trump." Kanye explained the reason for wanting to meet with Trump by saying, "I wanted to meet with Trump today to discuss multicultural issues." He continued saying that it's important to have a direct line of communication with our future president if we truly want change. Years later in 2018, a viral tweet between the two occurred when Kanye said, "You don't have to agree with Trump, but the mob can't make me not love him. We are both dragon energy. He is my brother. I love everyone. I don't agree with everything anyone does. That's what makes us individuals. And we have the right to independent thought." To which Trump responded, "Thank you, Kanye. Very cool." A bunch of other smaller interactions, including Kanye wearing a MAGA hat on SNL, eventually led to Trump meeting with Kanye again, but this time in the Oval Office. Before the two had lunch, Kanye gave a 10-minute speech in front of press touching on all topics, which left Trump speechless, probably because most of it didn't make sense. However, in the speech, Kanye said, "It was something about when I put on this hat that made me feel like Superman. You made a Superman. That's my favorite superhero. You made a Superman cape." This again all built up to another meeting in around 2022 in which Kanye allegedly asked Trump to run as his vice president in the 2024 election. Apparently, the meeting got pretty heated as both recalled different facts. Trump ended up calling Kanye a seriously troubled man and suggested heavily that he should not run, as he said Kanye was bound to lose. Overall, Kanye and Trump's relationship has been very complex, very confusing, and very entertaining. And while this was one of the most covered ones, it wasn't the only one. It's important to note that while there were some funny or entertaining or positive interactions for Trump, the majority in the hip-hop community were still negative, like in 2018 when Eminem did this.
That's an awfully hot coffee pot. Should I drop it on Donald Trump? Probably not.
Although I think this freestyle kind of backfired on Eminem because it was bad. It's also interesting because in the early 2000s, Trump actually supported Eminem, back when Eminem was the controversial one. But then Trump did something that at the time was super unexpected. In 2019, Rocky was arrested in Sweden after a street fight and was charged with assault causing actual bodily harm. Rocky detailed the events, stating the guys they got into an altercation with were following them for 4 blocks, claiming that ASAP's group broke a pair of headphones. Rocky and his crew kept telling the guys to stop following them, when one of the pursuers hit a security guard in the face with the headphones, so they acted in self-defense. Kind of, they did beat the shit out of them. As public outroar followed, Trump released a series of tweets speaking on the matter. In these tweets, he criticized the Swedish government for its treatment of the American rapper and demanded his freedom. He tweeted, "Give ASAP Rocky his freedom. We do so much for Sweden, but it doesn't seem to work the other way around. Sweden should focus on its real crime problem. Hashtag free Rocky." Trump also tweeted the iconic "Get home ASAP" tweet, which was pretty funny. Trump also claimed he spoke with the Swedish Prime Minister Stefan Löfven about the case but was disappointed. A spokesperson for Mr. Löfven responded by saying that the Swedish judicial system, prosecutors, and courts were independent. The government was not allowed to influence legal proceedings and everyone is equal before the law. The Swedish prosecutor in charge of the case stated that he had no contact with any White House or Swedish government officials while looking over the case. He also explained that they were so hesitant in releasing the group because an obvious risk that these 3 suspects would leave the country if they were released. Celebrities like Kim Kardashian, Kanye West, Nicki Minaj, Post Malone, and more all posted in support of the petition. Apparently, Kanye and Kim actually reached out directly to Trump, and that's how he got involved. However, years after this incident, Rocky actually released a film called Stockholm Syndrome, and it seems like the president's intervening may have only made things worse. Rocky said, "I kinda was scared that Trump was going to fuck it up, but then on the other hand, I'm just like, that's what's up, man."
ASAP Rocky is a situation in Sweden. Sweden's a great country. They're friends of mine, the leadership, and we are going to be calling. We'll be talking to them. We've already started. And many members of the African-American community have called me, friends of mine, and said, could you help? So I personally don't know ASAP Rocky, but I can tell you that he has tremendous support from the African-American community in this country. And when I say African-American, I think I can really say from everybody in this country, because we're all one. I have been called by so many people asking me to help ASAP Rocky. Actually, the one who knew about ASAP Rocky was our First Lady.
Rocky also said, "You want the most support you could," and it's like, oh, the president supports you. That felt good. Because for the most part, I don't think he ever knows what's going on in the urban communities. I was thankful for that, I can't lie. I was also scared that it would jeopardize me being in jail longer. In reality, I had no problem saying thank you to the man, especially if it helped me. That's the narrative they push in, that he got me out. And he didn't free me. If anything, he made it a little worse. Apparently, Trump's efforts to strong-arm Sweden may have only complicated things. Sweden's justice minister even alleged that Trump had threatened a trade war on Sweden if they didn't free Rocky. But regardless, in the end, Rocky's trial was suspended and he was released, so it is hard to truly say if Trump actually helped or just made things worse. And this wouldn't be the last time that Trump freed some people, but we'll talk about that later. First, I think it's important to touch on something that would become a major trend. This trend involves getting a rapper who may not be so popular or favored, and then bringing them to your rally. It was at Trump's final rally in 2020 that he had surprise guest Lil Pump come up on stage.
And speaking of sound, music, and other things, one of the big superstars of the world, Lil Pimp.
And Trump did eventually correct himself, but it was pretty funny. Oh, and on top of that, Pump was just tweeting out Donald Trump like a couple years before. Pump kept his support up and even recently got a large Trump mugshot tattoo on his leg. The comments called him cringe so much that they actually got him to delete all of his posts. We all know Pump has fallen off for a while now, but it seems like he really only goes viral when he does something crazy or when he does something Trump related. Around this time, Trump wasn't just putting in work with some cringe rappers though. He was also making efforts in his relationship with the rap legend Lil Wayne. In 2020, around the end of Trump's presidency, him and Wayne had a meeting in Florida to discuss Trump's Platinum Plan. This plan was a Trump administration initiative meant to uplift black communities across the US through a $500 billion investment. After the meeting, Wayne tweeted a photo with Trump and stated with it, "Just had a great meeting with Donald Trump. Besides what he's done so far with criminal reform, the Platinum Plan is going to give the community real ownership. He listened to what we had to say today and assured he will and can get it done." Lil Wayne faced a lot of criticism for this post, and even 50 Cent said, "Oh no, Wayne, I would have never took this picture." Another person who was involved in the Platinum Plan was Ice Cube, who after being involved had to explain that the meeting was not a form of endorsement, but instead he claimed it was an opportunity to discuss Trump's contract with Black America, which promises a series of policies to address racial inequality. Cube is quoted saying, "I'm willing to meet with anybody who could bring this to life and make it a reality." Regardless, his meeting with Trump sparked major outrage online, so he released a couple-minute long video titled, "But What's in It for Us?" explaining everything on Twitter.
They don't have a plan. Everybody's, talking about get Trump out, get Trump out, get Trump out. If you vote, that's going to happen on the first day. So now what? Trump out, now what? What? What do we get in the first 100 days? That's what we're trying to figure out. What do we actually get that they could give us overnight like that?
A lot of people called him a hypocrite for meeting with Trump anyways, with many bringing up his 2018 song called Arrest the President. Let's get back to Wayne though. After his meeting with Trump, it was not the last time that they would both be in a headline together. As part of Trump's presidential pardons before leaving office, he included Wayne amongst others. Lil Wayne's charge comes from him pleading guilty to possession of a firearm and ammunition by a convicted felon, and many people wanted Wayne to get a pardon. One of Lil Wayne's attorneys said, "A pardon for Mr. Carter is consistent with the views of many jurists." courts, including Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett, that prosecuting a nonviolent citizen for merely possessing a firearm violates the Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. These supportive statements, his meeting with Trump, and his attorney's efforts eventually aided in Wayne's freedom, as he was later pardoned by Trump. Some people theorize that he met with Trump so that he could get on his good side, so that he could eventually get pardoned if need be, but who knows. Kodak Black is another rapper who had legal issues around the time Trump was leaving office. He was in prison and he had served 2 years of his 4-year sentence, and then Trump pardoned him. Part of the reason he got pardoned was because of a lot of charitable donations he made in support of his community and underprivileged members. Some of the donations he made while he was still in jail, and others were years before he was even convicted. So White House officials put out a statement saying he is committed to supporting a variety of charitable efforts, such as providing educational resources to students and families of fallen law enforcement officers and the underprivileged. He has also paid for the notebooks of school children, provided funding and supplies to daycare centers, provided food for the hungry, and annually provides for underprivileged children during Christmas. And while behind bars, he gave $50,000 to COVID-hit small businesses in his Florida hometown. A bunch of his support came from religious leaders, one of whom actually served on Trump's cabinet at one point, which could be a big part of the reason that his efforts were successful. In response, Kodak spoke on the matter saying, "I fuck with that boy," and spoke heavily in favor of Trump on multiple occasions.
Hey bro, you voting for Donald Trump this year?
Of course. We should have Donald Trump for like 20 years, like how Russia and all that shit be doing. Like 4 years ain't enough time for a president. Like, you feel me? That ain't enough time for a motherfucker to fix what the last motherfucker just did. So we need Trump for like way more than.
This last-minute mass pardoning included 143 people, of which Wayne and Kodak were a part of. Kodak and Wayne actually had the same attorney, who said, "President Trump and his administration have been tireless advocates on behalf of the African-American community. These pardons are a perfect example of his administration following up on its reforms and commitments." But Trump and Kodak's relationship is very interesting.
Cam, can I tell you something? I'm good friends with Kodak Black, and he comes tomorrow. I'll go. He has a great time.
Oh yeah, you free Kodak.
Free Kodak, free ASAP.
I'm over Trump. That my dog. Yeah, I love Kodak. He the president of Florida.
That is my nephew. That is my Gemini twin.
Your Gemini twin, soldier.
Shout out to Snipe.
Now, as Trump is campaigning once again, he has busted out the strategy of bringing rappers on stage at his rallies yet again. The rappers most recently that he brought out were Chef G and Sleepy Hollow, who joined him on stage at his Bronx rally in May of 2024.
Here as well as rapper Chef G. Does everybody know Chef? Where is Chef G? Where is he?
I don't feel it feels like unsafe or it's all played out.
Come on up, fellas. Rapper Sleepy Hollow.
One thing I want to say, they always gonna whisper your accomplishments and shout your failures. Trump gonna shout the wins for all of us.
It is interesting to see the evolution from bringing up rappers like Lil Pump to some much more decent ones like Chef and Sleepy. At one point in the interaction, Trump even complimented Chef G's grills and said he wanted his own.
That's where I like those teeth. I want to find out where you did. I gotta get my teeth like that.
But what's interesting now is that Trump isn't the only person doing this. For example, Kamala Harris recently brought out Megan Thee Stallion and Quavo at some rallies, and Joe Biden had E40 perform at one of his rallies, but it gets even crazier. Just recently, Kodak Black and Fivio Foreign released a song called On Board, featuring Donald J. Trump. By the way, that means that Kodak and Fivio's teams probably had to reach out to Trump's team and actually clear the vocal sample, which is so funny. Of course, Trump isn't rapping on here. They just sampled his vocals from a speech for the intro and interlude, but Kodak said, "I ain't even seen this many black people freed during the Obama days. I told her she can have anything she wants, just not my Donald chain," which is real, by the way. Kodak Black actually has a Donald Trump chain. He also said, "They keep asking about Trump, but I don't speak on family business. Pull into Mar-a-Lago, the Monte Carlo was sitting on 6s. And then Fivio said on the chorus, "When Trump called, I was on tour. That was my win and it was your loss." So clearly Kodak is very grateful that Trump pardoned him. And like I said, many people also theorize that these rappers are getting close with Trump to use him as a get out of jail free card per se, which is definitely interesting to note when you take into consideration the rappers Sleepy Hollow and Chef G are both facing felonies right now. While rap and politics have been tied together since the genre's beginning, the increased use of popular rappers in actual political campaigns is something worth keeping an eye on. So yeah, I'm not making this video to tell you how or what to think about this stuff. I just genuinely think it's really interesting how we got here. I mean, in a sense, it's kind of cool that we went from rap being a super demonized genre way back when it came out to being used in political campaigns for the president of the United States of America. Regardless though, this is just really interesting to me and I wanted to check it out. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comments below. Other than that though, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please leave a big fat like. If you really enjoyed, maybe you could leave a big and fat subscribe. Enough yapping though. Appreciate you guys for watching. I'll catch you guys later. This has been Matty Balls and peace out.